Here we have a model of the human, face.
Oh God.
Tell me if you've ever had this happen before, Andrew. This right here, your soft palate, that is supposed to close up this space when you
Yeah.
when you blow really hard, when you suck on something, when you swallow, right? So that
Yes.
stuff going down doesn't come up.
I think I know where you're going with this.
You ever blow that out, man? Like it happens to me when am
Yeah.
out of practice and then I've got a gig coming up or something, so I play a lot, or in like competition season I'm like doing a lot of reps, like I'll be playing and playing and playing, and suddenly this thing, there's got to be a good name for it, like the Piper Piggy or something, because you'll be playing and suddenly you're just like reverse snorting involuntarily when you
Yeah.
blow in, you know what I mean?
Yes. I've never had any severe, like maybe once or twice it's happened to me just kind of on a weird whim.
Yeah.
But I've never had a severe issue with it, but I definitely know pipers who have. It's like a thing, right? Yeah.
It's a thing, yeah.
So it's the pathway for, like, because people will be listening to this later. So
Right.
I'm just sort of like,
Yeah,
the
make
way
it
I would
audio.
explain it is
Yeah.
the pathway from your throat to your nose, right? Like it loses the seal. And
Yeah.
it's like super uncomfortable. It's like
Very
when you
uncomfortable.
it's like when you accidentally sneeze when you're drinking ginger ale.
Totally. Yeah. It's got a little spicy quality to it. That's absolutely right.
Yeah, yeah. It's super, super uncomfortable, and it definitely can happen to pipers. So you want to know how to avoid this?
Yeah, I think so. Like honestly, as I was setting it up, I was like, is it only me? Maybe I'll bring this up, and Andrew will be like, that's just
Yeah.
you, James. Sorry, man.
So it's not only you. However, and I'm not a medical doctor, and I don't know
Disclaimer.
any. Yeah, and I don't know any. Like, I don't know any absolutely for sure. I don't know absolutely for sure that this will solve the problem. However, the first place my mind goes when you mention that is just your bagpipe's not set up right. It's set, your bagpipe is set up to be too difficult to blow, and maybe it is not too difficult right at this moment, but maybe what you've been doing over the past several weeks has been too much, and so the strength has given out. Although you would think that the strength would increase over time, but it could just be overuse, and it could, you know what I mean? Like it could
Yeah.
be overplaying. It could be overplaying a bagpipe that's not set up correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next question is obviously, what do I mean by set up correctly? And then I think there's just basically an epidemic of, in the bagpipe world, of bagpipes that are too hard. So we
Yeah.
need to set up a bagpipe that's not too hard, that's not taking too much air, where the chanter reed is not too hard. And if you do that, I would think the likelihood that that's going to give out on you would decrease. And then the other thing is, if it doesn't, it's an indication that we need to try and decrease the overall strength of our instrument further.
Yes, because I'm definitely in that camp where like I hide in the security of a hard bagpipe, because if I'm blowing at 110%, then there's not as much wavering in my drones and stuff. Like the first set of small pipes I got, even though they were bellows blown, because I was in that mode so much, I was like opening even those reeds up even more. Like it wasn't hard enough. I wanted to make it harder.
Yeah.
Which I see now that was never really doing myself any favors, but I've done it
Yeah,
for years on end.
There's a little bit to be said for that, but we want to be really careful. One of my themes of 2023, we want to be careful not to major in the minors. Right?
Ooh, that's classy.
So it's absolutely true, and as a matter of fact, when I first joined the SFU pipe band, in retrospect, that's what they did. Because I was a big sort of burly, strong kid, right? So they gave me a nice hard reed. And what that can do, if you can manage it, right? Well, if you can manage a hard reed, that can cover up fundamental problems with the steadiness of your blowing.
Yes.
Right, and the tonal quality, and then therefore, and then also therefore the quality of your tuning and like your ability to hear intervals and stuff. It can cover up your deficiencies because you just have to blow so hard to just keep it going, and those reeds tend to be very stable. Like so, even though they're hard, they tend to be very stable and not move around and pitch a lot, blah blah blah, et cetera, et cetera. So that's all true, but that's majoring in the minors. And if you're learning how to do something really really well, we don't want to cover up the problems that we have, right? We want to just work on the problems that we have and get better
Yeah.
at them, right?
Yeah,
So
you
like,
actually want to
that's
hear them
not-
so you know where they are, right?
Right. It's the same. It's the same reason we don't want to stick tone enhancers in our pipes as beginners. It's
Again,
because
guilty.
yeah, like we don't want to do that. We want to learn to get good tone.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the fascinating thing about something like a tone enhancer is, by the time you have really good tone, it kind of seems absurd that you would ever want a gadget to help you, because good tone is just something that you do naturally. So anyway, going back to hard bagpipe, we don't want that. As a beginner or an intermediate or whatever, we don't want a hard bagpipe. We want a bagpipe that's basically as easy as reasonably possible. Right? So that we can focus on all of the important things about learning the pipes, right? And not just focusing on trying to survive.
Yeah.
Making sense? So like that's a big mistake a lot of pipers make. There's a lot of mythology surrounding the merits of a hard bagpipe as well. Like it's going to make your volume louder, right?
Yep.
But if you sound crappy, you don't want to be louder.
You want to be louder? Yeah.
Yeah. If you sound crappy, you don't want to be louder.
Right.
And by the way, a wonderfully tuned, perfectly controlled bagpipe, even if it's quieter, it has an amplifying, resonating effect.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. The word piercing even comes to mind, not in a negative way, just like it kind of gets there better.
Yeah. And like for me, resonate comes to mind. So
that's a nicer word
for
it. Yeah.
That's really well controlled and really well set up, and the player's not struggling. And by the way, they're able to play really nice, nuanced music because they're not like starved for oxygen.
Yes.
When all of those things come together, that's like 25 times as enjoyable as just a bagpipe that's loud and sounding okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the nose epiglottis thing. I don't think it is an epiglottis, but let's pretend that's what it's called. The nose epiglottis thing.
There is a name for it. It's you might be right. That might be exactly what it is.
That thing is, my gut feeling is it's a symptom or a result of not managing the strength of your instrument well.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Like, as I think of my own experience, like when that happens, it's maybe not necessary. Like, there might be 2 or 3 factors that could be the culprits, and wheedling out which one it is, I suspect that probably the main thing is like blowing too hard, basically. Whether that's for too long, because I'm thinking to myself, like, maybe I'm out of practice and so I'm a little bit weak, but then it's like, why that thing, But then it's like when I'm getting prepared, when I'm getting ready for a competition or a performance, and like I play too much over the course of days, maybe I'm wearing it out. But then even when on stage, if I'm really nervous and I'm blowing harder than I need to, like I'm not relying on my arm as much as I should, it happens then sometimes too.
Yeah. So not to get too gross, but I'm also feeling like it's probably a lubrication issue. So
okay.
when your mouth gets really dry, when that gets really dry, which does tend to happen when you're nervous or like you said on stage. So now it's like seasoning inside the pipe bag. Now there's no lubrication there, so it's way more likely to kind of give out, and air is way more likely to sneak around whatever that anatomical feature is called.
That actually fits so well, Andrew, with this. Like one of my best friends and best piper I've ever known, what he told me, his like colloquial fix for this, right? Colloquial. I don't know if that's the right word for it. Again, not a medical doctor, right? But what
Just
he told
gargling?
me, not gargle. Well, this is like in the moment, right? What he told me, like if you're playing a funeral, like he told me this at a gig where he and I were playing together, right? And I was like, dude, it's happening. It's coming through my nose and I can't make it through the next tune, He was like, you have to swallow snot. He's like, don't take a drink of water, right? Snort up all the snot you can get and swallow it, and that'll help it close.
Personal, but yeah, yeah. All right, so there you go. Let's move on. I'm tired of talking about snot.